Here we go. I got the lighting a little bit better. Maybe a little too bright. Not sure. Camera's still adjusting. Oh, da ba da ba da ba da ba. Hi. Hey, we got a couple of people here. Let's see if I can figure out how this works. So, let's see. So we're going to be trying to figure out a live chat Wednesday. Maybe something like every other Wednesday or something like that. Oh, here we go. Good. We got the chat window working. Hi, Spencer. So yeah, there we go. Now it's coming in. Lighting looks good. Okay, thanks. I just put this light up here because I noticed in the original chat video that you guys gave me feedback on earlier that it seemed like my face was kind of all hazed over and everything. So we'll see what's going on. Lawrenceville, Georgia. Hey, interesting. So you guys are on Eastern time also, right? So it's like 7 o'clock there? But, hey, James. Yeah, okay, so you guys are on Eastern time. Okay. But, yeah, so I figured what I'll end up doing is maybe doing these live chats probably somewhere in the ballpark of every couple of weeks, either on a Wednesday or Thursday night. I'll probably do like I did tonight, and I'll post a pre-warning on Facebook. I actually wasn't planning on doing the live chat until next week, except for something came up for next week, so I decided to post it to today and see how many people kicked in and what you guys thought. Talladega, Alabama. Hey, there you go. This is a nice racing town. Let's see. Adirondack, New York. Adirondack, that's a mountain area, right? I bet you guys probably got a lot of ATVs around Adirondack. That'd be fun. But, yeah, they got a bunch of off-road parks in upper New York. That seems to be a nice place. Glad to be here for the first official live feed. Yeah, I've meant to do live feeds in the past, but my schedule has never opened up enough for them to exist. I'll get into the schedule changes later on. I'll release a video for you guys so that you know what's up. But I've never had an open enough schedule to be able to do the live chats and the Q&A answers, you know, on the fly, which is what I'd love to see us work on doing this summer is Q&A, and I want to be able to set up a couple of second monitors here and a second computer so that I can be able to help you guys with working through some quick research or maybe throwing up a chart or something. There's a way when you're doing this in order to set it up so that you can see a split screen for like transmission stuff and things like that. And I think we could do really well if we were to set that up. Give me just a sec. For the heck of it, I'm going to try killing that light right there and see if that changes it. I love those lights. I recently got them. Oh, there we go. That's much better. Now that stupid light isn't causing the camera to spasm. Oh, there we go. That works better. All right, let's see if we can get back to the comments over here and see what's going on. 16 people. Wicked good. Hey, that's better than the first one now. How's the weather in Maine from Sea Monkey? Oh, golly. You know, I've been holding off really trying to go and do the gas-powered Power Wheel build in the snow because it's Maine. We're supposed to have snow. So like I've been waiting for like a 6-inch snowstorm in order to go take it for a test drive and throw some snow around, and thinking that would be cool for the first video. And wouldn't you know it, all we've had is basically rain. If it does snow, we get like 12 inches of snow, and then it turns over into these torrential downpours that turn into nothing but, yeah, ick. And then it all glazes over the top with this ice thing that is horrible to ride on, and just, it's horrible on equipment. But the biggest issue when you end up with that coastal ice is that it makes these chunks of solid, like concrete ice caps on top, and when you catch them into an ATV tire, it just racks on your transmission and it breaks things. That's actually how I blew the fourth transmission in the original main mud mower. I came up and over a snowbank, and the bear claws caught onto the edge of a big giant chunk of ice. I mean, it was like hubcap size, and it drove the tire back up through and split the transmission right in half. I think you guys have seen pictures of that in the past. Try and do them about 8 or 8:30, maybe be 9, to make up for the different time zones. Yeah, I've thought about that, Marvin. See, that's the reason why it is I started off with the idea of doing like 7 to 8 o'clock Eastern time, and then maybe if we get enough people, like say we get like 100 people following or something, maybe up the time scale a little bit. But I'm not really into the idea of doing like a 2-hour long chat, I guess. I don't feel the need to talk that long, and so unless you guys are posting questions, I'll just run out of material. Let's see. Small Engine Nation is going to raid your channel. Sure, have at. Actually, I've ended up with a lot of my pictures and stuff getting pulled and posted on all kinds of things, including I had some transmission photos that got pulled and posted on eBay a few years ago. That was interesting. I made it in time. Yes, you did. We're here for another 55 minutes or so worth of you guys asking me questions, I guess. I'm not really sure how this whole live feed thing really works. Doug sent me to see you. Yeah, a lot of people end up forwarding others here. It's cool. It's interesting to go and see where people come from. Hey, bud, one of your first subscribers, glad to see you do these now. Yeah, I tried doing these years ago, and I just didn't have the internet connection, and I didn't have just the stuff necessary, and so I kept it to how-to videos. Just northeast of Nova Scotia. Yeah, I bet you're probably sharing the same kind of weather we are here. This is good timing. I'm on the West Coast. Oh, if you're on West Coast, then yeah, it must be somewhere around 4-ish right now. Murdered in 820 with executioners. I don't think there isn't anything executioners don't eventually murder if you have a happy skinny pedal. Let me see. Hey, Thunder Drive's kicking around. He's a good old school guy. He's been kicking around on YouTube for just about as long as I have. In fact, actually, I think he's been there longer. Working on stuff during a live feed posted by Brad. I'm debating that. I actually ordered up a battery for the laptop that I'm actually streaming this from now. Brand spanking new, and I've got the laptop absolutely running nothing that isn't necessary to be able to do this. And I was thinking maybe, you know, doing brake jobs everybody's seen a million times, talking during the brake job or something. or if I'm ripping apart a transmission for the 30th time or something like that, maybe bringing you guys along and talking about it as we do it. So I have debated that, seeing what you guys think about that idea, I guess. Good morning from Josh. Funny you say that, Josh. I tell everybody good morning no matter what time of day it is. I like to see if they're paying attention, actually. Kansas City is getting ice storm tonight. Dude, I was in the ice storm that knocked out all of Maine for almost 2 weeks straight. Actually, it was more than 2 weeks where I was living. And we had 14 days of no power whatsoever. Like, you literally didn't go to town unless you had a chainsaw and a 4x4. Ice storms don't don't threaten me at all. I live for that. We haven't had one anywhere near that bad in many years. That was back in like the early 90s, I believe. Northern West Virginia. There you go. Good job. That's a nice area. I've been there a couple of times. I went there on a couple of trips when I was in school. That was fun. Carl says, yes, live trans teardown now. I tell you what, I'll see what I can do, and I got a different webcam showing up in order to test for the next time we do one of these. And I actually have the transmission that came out of the last gas-powered Power Wheel build before it like obliterated itself. Maybe we'll break that down in the middle of a video and see what that looks like and stuff like that. That way you guys can see what the F&R on the inside looks like after being beat to snot all over the place. But that might be a good video. Maybe we'll do that on the next one. Ken Baker says, "What's up? I like your Power Wheels project." I like it too. I managed to go and get it fired up and test it into reverse and test it into first gear, back and forth a couple of times here in the garage. And I've got well, I ended up with the Ranger decide to eat brakes out of nowhere, so I got a whole bunch of stuff at the front of the garage. But we're going to be rearranging the whole garage and doing a round robin here, Chinese fire drill, whatever you particularly want to call it. And we're going to take the Power Wheel build here, and we're going to run it to the front of the garage so we can get it out and play with it, and bring the GT6000 back here and maybe work on the snowblower build if we'd ever figure out what snow is in the state of Maine, you know. Send some snow over to Oregon, Uguine. Sure, I would love to, actually. You can have my icy snow that sucks to drive in. I can barely stand one night without power. Yeah, seriously, dude. Up here in Maine, we deliberately cache stuff to be able to go 3 days. It's a normal thing up here. You get used to it. Gearhead Garage. Yes, you've been kicking around on YouTube a long time. I'm glad you're one of my old subscribers. It's good to go and see all the old names kicking back from back when I first started. It's been amazing to see how many older YouTubers have kicked back in this year. There's a bunch of the original Mudmower group that has shown back up, and it is awesome. I am so glad to see some of the older guys coming back and getting into it. The guys that I watched and decided I needed to go and come back and put my twist on it and show the main version of what we do. James Yoder says, who all is working on their rigs and watching live stream? I bet there's a bunch of you guys, actually, with the cell phones and everything nowadays. I bet there's a ton of you guys doing that. What are your thoughts on SuperTech oil? SuperTech oil? Oil is oil when you put it in a small engine. I don't know why people decide to get so uptight about oil in a small engine. I mean, I live in Maine. I literally run like 520 in all of my engines every single day of the year. So I'm probably the worst person ever to ask about oil questions because I just run whatever the 520 is that's on sale at AutoZone that week. All right, let's see if I can scroll this up just a little. Can I do that? There we go. Okay. Oh, we got another vote for ripping apart the original transmission from the gas-powered Power Wheel build. Yeah, it's got like a giant hole eaten through the side of it. Apparently, the bull gear must have offset or something at the last minute and like ate a hole through the side. I'll make sure to show you guys whether it's on live stream or not. I'll make sure it ends up on video somewhere. Heavy duty lawn trailer for a tractor. You know, if I get a piece of property that I can homestead on, I will totally do that. As it is right now, the property is just not really big enough to go and warrant that. But if I get a piece that I'm pulling some wood out of, you bet I'm going to figure out building a heavy duty trailer. Bayside Customs, are GT6000s a good mud mower? You know, I said this in the last live stream about Murray GTs, and I'll say the same thing about a GT6000. You don't ever go to a mud run and see a dump truck try and go in the mud hole. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that you'd have to do a lot of modifications to make it worth it. Let's see. Richie Rich Overdrive says he wishes Redline Motorsports would come back. Dude, I totally agree. I wish Redline would come back. Him and as crazy as he was, Junkstar Builds. That dude came up with some of the craziest stuff out of nowhere. I don't know I don't know what dumpster he fished everything out of, but it was always cool to watch all of his builds. MST 205 torn down, and it's got gears that wobble around really bad on the fifth gear. That's because an MST is actually it's a universal design transmission. They're actually made to be anything from a 3-speed all the way up through to a 6-speed. And there's a set of shims that go in between in order to set your parameters when you're setting up those gears. You can literally take the shifter out of any MST and you can throw it into another MST. It doesn't matter how many gears there are. They're all exactly the same. And actually, there's a reverse shifter cylinder that you can put into an MST 203, which is what they make the really, really, really big snow blowers with, is an actual reverse gear running MST 203. Which is how I ended up with part of the design for this here, was I ended up with one by accident. I thought I was buying a regular 203 for another project. Let me see here. Let's scroll down through. Sorry guys, I'm gonna have to play catch up. You guys are getting ahead of me here. Let me see. If a GT6000 is a dump truck, my wheel horse is a tank. See, okay, let's go back to that. So when you're dealing with off-road vehicles, okay, so you got your 2 tires here, and in between you've got your frame and where your transmission sits and all of that kind of stuff. See, when you deal with a wheel horse, you end up with an angle up like this towards your front tire over on this side, which means you have an amazing amount of clearance area to play with. But if you're dealing with a GT6000, it's like this, down next to the tires, which means you bottom out on everything. And the other thing is your wheel horse belt is all the way up in here, Whereas with a GT6000, it's down in here, and so it gets totally mucked up and messed up by everything that touches it. And if you have one like mine, the belt does this loop-de-loop roller coaster stupidity in underneath that the moment you get any kind of mud on it, just does the dumbest things ever that it possibly could. Let me see here. GT6000 steering is so trash. Yes. Answer. How's the electric conversion tractor working out for you? I'm going to revisit that, actually. I'm hoping to pull it out of the snowbank it's in. The problem is where I have to park my tractors off to the side is also where I tend to stash snow as I'm coming up the driveway. So right now there is a solid, like 2-foot thick block of ice in front of the back end of all those tractors. I will get the electric conversion back out. I do have a lot of plans for it, and I have many, many ideas that I want to play around with, including maybe throwing a 500-watt motor into it with 25 size 25 gearing on it, so that I can run all the different sprockets and stuff, like the guys that really hop up the power wheels and things, and see what that'll do. But that's just another side note idea that I'm playing with. As far as I know, nobody's ever done that, so we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Sears or tanks too. Yet again, that goes to that same exact here versus here conversation. It's all about ground clearance. I mean, when you talk about gearing ratios and the transmissions and everything else, a lot of times they're pretty close. It's all about getting that stupid belt up and out of everything. Belt twists are garbage. Yeah, tell me about it. My GT6000 eats a stupid belt on that thing about every year and a half, to the point that I now have a Kevlar one sitting. Yeah, it's over there in that corner over there. I pre-order them the moment I have to swap one, because sooner or later, out of nowhere, it always drops off the... If your frame rail's here, you got an idler and an idler. It always drops off the outside one, goes into the inside, and then as it goes up in, the inner idler slices it. And you can get it on long enough to drive it back to the garage, and that's about it, because after that, the thing just obliterates itself and explodes everywhere. Adam Edwards says, love the stuff you do. Dude, I don't do anything that any of you guys can't do. That's part of the point of this channel, is I grew up on the poorer side of life, and I don't understand why it is everybody thinks that they can't do stuff like I do. I mean, most of what I do with just a regular grinder, and I built the entire gas-powered power wheel here out of, I mean, here. Let me see if I can show you guys. And look, I built the entire thing. That entire build literally was done with almost nothing but a grinder and some cutoff discs and a $100 welder. I mean, any of you guys could be able to pull that off. Like $200 worth of tools, and I built this. It's not that hard, and that's the biggest thing about this channel, is I want the average Joe to see the fact that they can do all of this cool stuff and pull it off. I mean, you don't have to have expensive tools. Like, I love that channel, Make It Extreme. Make It Extreme is awesome. I mean, the dude does stuff that I'll never, ever be on his scale by any means. But he does stuff that you and I could never do at home, which is why his channel is as big as it is because everybody wants to go and watch all that cool stuff. But it's horrible that people sit there and go, I wish, I wish, I wish. Well, then, dude, let's figure out a way to do it. That's my motto. All right, let's see. What we got going on here? What's the engine and the power wheel? It's a 7 horsepower Duro-Max, Duromax. Boy, do I love all the Chevy and Ford guys arguing about that on my posts every single time I post that. It's actually, the company refuses to talk to me because I keep showing that it is essentially just a Predator that you pay way too much for. And they refuse to talk to me. They won't answer any of my emails. And I swear at some point I'm going to buy one of like the stage 2, stage 4 kits for a Predator. I'm going to see if the thing fits. I mean, I have a Predator carcass sitting over here. So if the stage whatever kit doesn't manage to go and fit in this Duro-Max, heck, I'll just throw it into the Predator and we'll put that in something. I've got a Sears, I've got an SS12 or an SS16, I think it is, sitting out front that needs an engine. You know, we'll build a Predator and throw it in that thing. I don't care. That's one of the big things this year. We're gonna get on to projects. Projects are going to get absolutely ripped apart, put together, and gone through this year because we've got a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Mighty has a belt twist rig he's bringing to Haspin. See, I've seen belt twist rigs work, but they seem to work when people have taken the time to take those 2 stupid idler pulleys and they put the extended, what do you call that? Let me grab one. Okay. What they end up doing is they actually weld pieces on, and then they bevel the top of it over a little bit, so that way if the belt starts to come off to one side, it's got tons of play to pull on. And I've seen guys do it, but I don't know. I wouldn't touch it. All right, let's see. What else we got going on? .801s are infamous for eating bearings. You know, I've heard that. I actually have an 801 sitting behind me. I wonder if I can spin the chair. Right? Oh, it's sitting there. Guess you can't see it. Maybe you can. Yeah, right there. There's an 801 sitting right there. But it's got like weird threaded axles in it, which is why I've never used it on anything. It originally came out of a really high-end Toro that the frame and the deck were just rotted beyond belief, so I saved it so I could throw it up on eBay, and then I forgot the stupid thing for like 3 years. I'm going to have to go and decide what to do with it. Alright, let's see. Oh, I should probably start learning how to scroll this down and find out what's going on. Is a GT5000 a good mower for commercial use? I'm going to answer that, but you're probably not going to like my answer. Back when I was flipping tractors 4 or 5 years or so ago, I actually used to trade LT2000s for GT5000s and then fix the 5000 in order to go and sell to residentials, not to the guys doing lawn care. And the reason being was that they could take an LT2000 and they could fix it on the cheap. Parts are everywhere. because you got to remember an LT2000 basically uses parts for almost a 28-year span, I think it is. And so if you get one of those models that's in that 28-year span, and like, it doesn't matter whether you have a spindle that is a 3-bolt spindle, whether you have a 4-bolt spindle, all of it you can interchange. All you got to do is just drill out the bolt holes, and you can drop them in. Your drive belts, a lot of them are all interchangeable. A lot of them use a 95 on the engine and a 95 on the deck and stuff like that. So the GT5000 is a nice machine. It's a very, very nice machine, and it's big enough to do a lot of things like a small homesteader type person would want to be able to do. But as far as what I ended up selling to guys that commercially mowed, ironically, the LT2000s, I couldn't buy one fast enough and fix it up if I had to. I literally would list those, and within 5 hours at most, if I listed an LT2000 for $300, it would be gone that night, and I guarantee it would be a guy showing up with a big trailer so that he could go mow lawns. They were insane. The other thing about those GTs that you run into over the years, my dad has one, is you got to watch out that they don't have the plastic Vari-Drive transmission. I'm actually going to pull that this year and show you guys that. Craftsman, for some reason, all of a sudden decided they thought they were going to be smart, and they used a Vari-Drive plastic transmission, and it's got the stupidest braking system ever. I'm going to rip that down at some point and show you guys. That would be awesome. Let's see. Briggs or Kohler? Ooh, 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 ooh. We're not gonna touch that tonight. We can go back to that at some point. But if you've been around my channel long enough, you've probably figured out which one I prefer. And actually, while we're clarifying that, I don't know why it is, but one of them definitely seems to survive getting frozen in the winter a lot better than the other one. I don't know how many snowbanks I have hauled one brand out of, and you can literally take a torch to the carburetor and get it moving and fire it up while it's still embedded in the snowbank, and the other brand doesn't seem to want to do that. Probably because most of them have a lot of plastic you can't take a torch to. That might be part of it. Let's see. Do you like twin engines? I'm going to excuse me. I'm going to assume that you're probably talking about opposed twins and V-twins. I do, but they come with a twist. And the twist about dealing with any twin cylinder is that everything always costs you 3 times as much. You got a 17 horsepower single cylinder Briggs, whatever. Your coil is like $10 all day on Amazon. But you got a coil for, like, say, a V-twin or an opposed, and all of a sudden it's $25. Carburetors are another example. I mean, I can buy the carburetor for the mud mower over here was $12 from China, and the cheapest possible one that I could find in order to go on the V-twin that's on the Murray GT I got outside, the yellow Stanley one, that thing was $27, the cheapest Chinese one that I could find, just to throw it on and get the thing up and running. Because originally I intended to go and tear apart the transmission right then and get it up for sale, but life happened and, you know, moved on from there. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. What ply toilet paper do you use? 2. I'm sure everybody really needed me to answer that question. But I thought it was creative, so I answered it. Let's see. Input bearing has a top and a bottom bearing, right? I am going to assume you're talking about the input bearings on most transmissions. Yes, most of your transmissions usually have a top and a bottom needle bearing set that you have to pop in and out. Those are really easy to do if you have a bunch of long, thin sockets that you can figure out which one fits down in, and get a buddy that's got a 12-ton press set up. They just punch right out in 5 seconds. You know, show up, offer them a soda or a beer or whatever it is your buddy drinks, and they'll pop right out really easy. Okay, what do we got? We got anything new? As a fellow redneck computer geek, I would like to know if you prefer Apple or Android mobile devices. Oh boy. Let's see how I can word this. What I usually tell people when they ask me the Apple versus Windows question and the Apple versus Android question is usually about the same thing. I tell them if you want to be creative and you want to be able to do what you want to do, you use an Android or you use a Windows computer. If you want to live in a communist country where everything is controlled by somebody else and you're only allowed to go and sneeze if they tell you to, then you buy an Apple device. Because that's pretty much about what I think of them. Let me see. Have you ever had a Kohler Magnum engine? I've had my hands on a couple of them. I've never bothered keeping one around longer than getting it up and running and selling whatever it was on. You can dump a lot of money into a Kohler Magnum really, really quick. And so usually if they'll fire up and a carb cleaning fixes them, then I sell them and I don't ever bother trying to get into them any further. All right, let's see. What other kind of questions do we have? Well, apparently you guys can go down through and you can figure out your Apple versus Android argument in the comment section. I think right now Android's winning. Ha-ha. Are you ever going to get back to the Hydro Mother? Actually, I have a transmission for the Hydro Mother. Actually, it is right over there. There's a transmission sitting right there that's waiting in order to go back into that project. The original transmission ended up suffering a catastrophic failure due to my old habit of being an alcoholic. And due to that, I set it aside for a while because I was really upset about how stupid I could be and everything else. And now that I'm clean and I don't touch any alcohol anymore, I think it's time to go back to that madness that was the Hydro Mutter. I do think we can make it work. I've got a transmission to try it with, and I'm looking forward to getting back to it. Let's see. Plower snowblower for mowers. Okay. I live in Maine and we get this question all the time. Do I get a plow truck or do I get a snowblower? And the problem is that if you're talking about mowers, the answer to that question is actually the inverse. So if you're dealing with a snowblower and you're dealing with a hand push snowblower, then it's all about how long your driveway is. because at a certain point, at the length of your driveway, you should just buy a plow truck, because I have a third of a mile long driveway, and I have used a snowblower to do the entire third of a mile. And it took me 2.5 hours, and that was in a 12-inch snowstorm. But if I jump in my plow truck, I can literally break out the entire driveway in an 18-inch snowstorm. I can break out the entire driveway and come back down through. I can break out all the parking spaces as long as nobody's messing around, and I can have the whole thing done in a matter of probably 30 minutes at most. But the problem when you're dealing with a tractor is you don't have the size of a pickup truck. So your plow is only good for about, I don't know, when I had the mud mower with the plow on it, it was probably only good for about 6 to 8 inches of standard snow. Now, the GT6000, on the other hand, that outweighs the original mud mower by, I would bet, a solid 300, maybe 400 pounds. And that thing, with tire chains and everything, that'll push a solid 12-inch of snow without any issue. But the thing is you got to plan pushing that plow. About every 50 feet, you got to have some sort of offshoot that you got to throw it into. And that's the problem with plowing. Plowing is only good for 50-foot runs when you have a lawn tractor. So you've got to plan on the idea of less than 50 feet somewhere you are packing that snow into something. And that's the other problem people run into, is if you have a snowblower, you snow blow the path and you're done, because it throws the snow off into God knows where land. So when you're dealing with a plow, you've got your area, something like this. I'm still getting used to this. Okay, so you got your driveway that you're plowing, but the problem is you also got to plow that snow way over in here when you're plowing it over, because you've got to plan that your driveway is this big and that you've got this much area that you've got to store snow for the next 3 months. And that's the other problem people run into with plowing. All right. Was that a good enough answer? Tell me whether that was good enough for you guys. We got more stuff about Kohlers versus Briggs. Got some more Apple versus Android. Let's see. Can't push dirt with a snowblower. Well played. I use my plow on the GT6000 during the summertime a lot, especially when it comes to dealing with like rototilled areas and stuff like that, using it to come back across. I didn't realize that the bird, there we go. I didn't realize he was in the picture. That was by accident. Normally I do put them in something, but that was accidental. I didn't realize he was there. Let's see, questions about Not the Norm. So as far as Not the Norm is concerned, Not the Norm's actually was up and running up until I parked it before winter. I actually went out and I tried to start it about a month or so ago when we had a hot spell, and it wouldn't start. Something in the carburetor, I think, went. So I do intend to bring Not the Norm back. My first thing, though, is I'm going to do a pulley swap, and we're going to see if we can get that center transmission spinning for everything that it's worth. As it is right now, the thing in third gear just barely does 6 miles per hour, I think it was, on the GPS track that I ran on it. So 6 miles per hour just is not going to do it. We're going to have to up the ante. And yes, I do have a front end for it to make it 4x4, but I'm not going to bother unless I can manage to actually get it so it's going like a good, I'm going to say 15 miles per hour, because that's what I usually tell everybody when they're mudding in a mud mower. Is a good goal is to have your third gear and your fourth gear. Your fourth gear be about 15 miles per hour on a flat, and your third gear to be about 12. And that way, normally you can trail ride in your fourth, and then you can mud a hole in third, and you can drop gear into second when you need to lift your front end and walk out of a hole. I'm going to let you guys read the comment section over there on that last one. I'm not going to get into politics right now. Maybe sometime, but not today. But I will agree with what was stated. What is the biggest tractor you have ever had? The biggest tractor I have ever had. I've had a bunch of different GT6000s. Those are probably the heaviest thing that I've worked with. I mean, some of the Kohler-powered hydro GT6000s, you can literally hook them up to a pickup truck and haul it down the driveway and stuff. They're pretty big. You're losing viewers, Mr. Geek. Well, we've been sitting pretty much at the same 29 to 30 or so for a while, actually. I was looking at that. But, you know, people are going to come and go. I mean, I'm only here for an hour, and they're probably just dropping in order to see what stupid thing you guys managed to talk me into talking about. So, yeah, whatever works. They're going to come and go. Six is what my pulley swap Murray Hydro does. Yeah, don't pulley swap hydros. That's a bad idea. Let me see. Do you charge batteries at 12 volt by 50 amp or 12 volt by 2 amp? Well, I guess that depends. Does the wife need to go and immediately get in the car and go to work? Or can you do it right and put it on 2 amps? Does that answer your question? Please, no politics. I agree. We're going to go and stay out of politics for now. But, okay, so, yeah. Let's see. So my goal at this point, as far as, you know, continuing with videos on the channel is concerned, we're going to see what we can do about, getting the gas-fired Power Wheel up and running at some point this week, no matter what. And then after that, we'll get the GT in and try and work on the snowblower. And then I've got a couple of other knick-knacky projects in between. That's what we're going to be at. I'd rather argue about tractor brands and motors. I agree. That's kind of why we're here right now. Although I don't mind talking about other stuff. If you want to go and bring up a car or a truck or something like that, you know, everybody has their 2 cents worth that they can put in. Sometimes they put in a fake 2 cents, but whatever works. I see you have the same Black & Decker drill as I do behind you. I've had it smoking and hasn't died yet. Oh, you're talking about the Matrix back here. Yeah, these are Matrixes. I actually really like this thing. So the head actually pops off. You got a button up here. You punch that. And then over here, you got your regular pop-in. And you can undo it. Whoop, there it goes. And the one thing that I like about it is, I don't know if you can see inside there, but it's metal on your contact. And it's metal on this. which is a revision that apparently they made from the first release, because the originals had plastic on one side or the other. I don't remember which one it was, but yeah, I love this thing. I love working with it all the time. I use the impact side of it most, actually, which is why this is covered in all kinds of crummy stuff over on the side here. But I really like putting in self-tapping stainless steel screws with it. That's usually my favorite thing to use it for, and the reason being is it doesn't seem to strip things out when you're going in, because it's low enough strength that it won't strip them out, but it's strong enough to go and put them into something like 1/8-inch steel or something like that. But yeah, speaking of stuff like that, we'll see what we can do about the camera that I have showing up. I also made sure to go and get an extension cable for, so maybe we can pick it up and we can move it around the shop, and you guys can like ask me what something is, or I can grab it or something like that. Who knows, you know? We're gonna see what we can do in order to make this like an every couple of weeks type idea, and you know, get people back involved. I like having the viewer involved. I miss the old Google Plus chat, the way that they used to do it. So you prefer a trickle charge? That's not what I said. I prefer whatever is necessary at the time in the current timeline that you are allotted in order to be able to deal with it. Now, if you put it on a 50 and you do not remember to go and take that set of clamps off of there in probably about 10 minutes, you are going to boil something. And whether you boil it enough to go and kill it, or whether you boil it enough to make a dead cell, or whether you just make it stink a little bit, you're going to do damage. And so that's the reason why it is that I bought a battery booster that has a 2, a 10, a 20, and a 150. And the 2 and the 10 are for cycling over the battery and stuff when I need to. The 20, I can put it on when I know I've got like an hour for it to sit, and I can monitor it and smell for whether it starts to boil. And the 150 is so that I can throw it on and I set a timer for 3 minutes, and at the end of that 3 minutes I immediately try and start that vehicle or start whatever it is. I will tell you one thing: if you stick a 150 onto a lawn tractor battery, especially the cheaper Walmart ones, it will boil, and you will literally hear it boiling like it's a pot of boiling water on your stove. You've got to be really quick, really careful, and just do it. You need some mods on your live stream. I probably will eventually. Like literally, this is the first live stream that I've attempted other than the test one I did yesterday that you guys might have seen. Ooh, let's talk drills. Have at, man. I've got a Porter cable, a Milwaukee. I've got a Black & Decker. I've got a DeWalt Impact, I think, somewhere kicking around here. I've got some sort of German brand 12-volt one in the house. I've got 2 Power Glide corded drills. I don't really have a brand loyalty per se. I just kind of go with whatever works at the time and who seems to be giving the best deal. Because the problem is with drills nowadays, nobody does warranties and stuff. It's not like when you could get the Craftsman cordless and you could get a warranty for it and replacement batteries every time it died out. This is my new favorite ginger ale here. It's Bundaberg. See if I can get close. As you can see right there, it's Australian. Really good. I really like it. It's expensive, but when you consider that I drink like one or two of these a day versus what I was drinking when I was an alcoholic. I mean, I literally would put down close to like $30 a day worth of alcohol without even flinching. And so, yeah, it's just amazing how much you can end up drinking in just one day. Tim Lee, my wife called. Did he answer about not the norm? Yes, not the norm will come back. I got to go and see if I can get that center transmission spinning about twice the speed it's at. So we're going to put an engine pulley on, and then we're going to put a center one on. And I bet I can get the motor to fire back up. If not, well, that's what tractor flipping is for. And we're going to do a lot more of that this year. My goal is probably to go and flip at least 2 to 3 tractors a week. And I will bring you guys along for the ride for what I can of it. A lot like we used to do back in the old days on this channel. 0 turns are bomb for mowing. You know, I've only been able to actually play around with 3 0 turns so far, and yes, they're a lot of fun. But I tell you what, if I have to go haul my neighbor out of a ditch in his 0 turn one more time because it just decided to eat itself off into the ditch, I'm just going to call it good. I'm going to start charging him a recovery service. I've had to go down there with the Jeep several times and haul him out because once the deck starts to go off, it acts like a leverage point on the front of his 0 turn, and it just pulls him straight off. All he's got to do is just lose that one wheel off to the side. I've told him for like 2 years now, he ought to take that outside wheel that he always catches, and he ought to just upgrade it so it's an actual like full-size lawn tractor tire wheel, like something like a 13-inch front tire wheel, and then it would ride over stuff instead of dropping down in and pulling. Okay, let's see. What's cool is no different. I must have missed something there. Tough little thing for a Black & Decker. Yes, yes they are. That one I have beat the snot out of. Free swimmers, sobriety #1. Hey, I just want to go and be clear. I'm not against drinking. I'm against guys like me that couldn't stop themselves from drinking. There's a big difference. And that's the big deal here, is that there's a big difference between somebody who is capable of having one beer and going days versus somebody that the moment they open one beer, it turns into 12 beers, half a bottle of whiskey, and passing out without remembering anything. There's a big difference. Okay. Do you make good money off of tractor flipping? It kind of depends on how you define good money. So the way that I flip tractors is I specifically go towards $300. And that $300 I put into thirds. So the way I think about it is that if I can get that tractor for $50 to $100, inevitably it's going to take somewhere around $20 to $100 worth of parts to get it up and running, providing the engine block is good and the transmission isn't stupid and all that other kind of stuff, which is the reason why it is that if I buy it for $50 and the moment I discover the engine has a hole in it or a crack or something like that, I just immediately set the machine aside and I use it for parts, because you've got to be able to have that buffer of the $50 to $100. And the reason why that's important is because a 42-inch mowing lawn tractor up here, it doesn't matter whether it's got a 12 horsepower or a 22 horsepower. It doesn't matter whether it's a hydro or whether it's geared. It doesn't matter any of that. If you have a running 42-inch lawn tractor and it does not look as if it got wrecked, it's $300. It just is what it is. Every once in a while, I'll do an ugly tractor sale. Like if I end up with a really beat up MTD or something like that. I don't know what's up with people in MTDs. They beat the snot out of those things like they went to a derby race, and then they call me and want $100 for it or some stupid thing. But if you take it and you base it on $300, which is what the market value is here in Maine, that's your thing. Buy it for 50 to 100. Only fix it if it takes somewhere under 100. You sell it, you retail it back to the public for probably somewhere around $400 to $350, depending on the quality of the paint at that point. And you sell it at a minimum of $300. And right there, you've got your $100 bill. No matter what, you made $100. But the thing about that $100 is you got to take that $100 and you got to immediately slice $40 off of it. And you put 20 of that towards your electrical, because you got to run lights, you got to run your air compressor, you got to run your welder, you got to run your grinders, you got to run all of that. So you immediately take $20 and you throw it aside in order to pay your electrical. And then you take your other 20 and you set it aside because you need shop supplies. Inevitably, you're going to need oil you forgot. You're going to go and need brake cleaner that you forgot. You're going to need something. Set it aside. You're going to need it. And the other thing that I tell everybody is that get used to figuring out what your sales deals are at your local AutoZone, your local Napa, your local O'Reilly's, your local whatever, and do those cycles of sales and restock your shelf in one go during the cycle of sale. Because every single time that you buy a $3 on sale brake bottle, that is profit that you just lost if you buy it at $5 because you didn't buy it in bulk when it was on sale. So always plan ahead for that. Let's see. Sorry, got off a little bit long in the tooth on that one, but we'll see what we can do here. Let's see. What do I think of Lucky 7 mud mower? To be honest, I like Lucky's rig. I mean, I'm a Craftsman guy. I like his rig. Lucky as a person tends to come across a tad bit, well, I'm not sure I'd ever want to go and see him drinking whiskey. We'll word it that way. Would I ride with Lucky at some point if I had the chance? If he took the time to do what I do and make it ATV legal and we found a legal trail to ride on, yes, I would. Here in the state of Maine, the ATV enforcement, it's insane. It's like a $3,000 potential fine if you get caught out on the trail. And my wife happens to work for the state of Maine, and she's in the side that deals with the game wardens and stuff. So the last thing that I need for my wife to end up with is me ending up in trouble out on the trail. All right, I'm going to see if there's a couple of more quick questions in here. We're getting towards the 8 o'clock mark. I actually have somewhere to go and be pretty soon, so we're going to end up cutting this off pretty quick, but we'll see what we got here. Most of the tractors I get are for free, and I flip them for $150. Yeah, I mean, if you can get it for free and you can flip it really low, a lot of times I'll flip something to a family member or a friend if I got it for free and I was able to fix it with parts off of something else. Loader for the front of his mower. I would love to build a loader for the GT. Actually, I just got a hold of a whole ton of medical grade linear actuators rated for 250 pounds, except for there's this really weird like 36 volts, and so I'm gonna have to play with them and see what I can come up with there. The $300 mower there is $500 here in Florida. I don't doubt that, actually. I've seen guys get like totally baffled at some of the prices that I'll post up for. Let's see. Anything else on here? Regular light bulbs? Rich, I'm not sure what you were after there. Yeah, I agree, Free Swimmer, with what you said. It is. It's up to the person, the individual. And I won't get any further onto that. I mean, if you guys ask me a question or something, I'll answer it straight out right. But these live streams are never going to be a rant about that kind of stuff. I really want to go and keep these live streams so that they're focal pointed towards what you guys ask for questions that are relevant to everybody else that's in the group. Oh, dealing with LEDs versus regular lights on the circuit. So, okay, I get where you're going with that. The problem is you're dealing with an analog versus a digital kind of situation. A regular incandescent bulb will come up through and then down through slowly, whereas an LED is just bang, 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 bang. And so I've ended up with a lot of people asking questions about that because of the cycling on the mud mower, making the rear lights blink and making the headlights blink. And that's because what I need to do is I need to wire it so it's going from the battery to the switch and not from the alternator to the switch. Because if you had a regular incandescent bulb on it, you wouldn't be seeing that cycling as harsh as you do. And that way the battery acts as a filter, well, a filter of sorts, so that it's got a constant voltage and you won't see that cycling coming from the alternator. See, Richie Rich comes back. Yeah, Richie Rich ended up coming back saying the same thing I did, run it off the battery. Alright guys, so I'm going to call that good. I'm going to go and release a video later explaining why it is a few things on the channel have changed and what's coming up for changes. The big thing is we're going to be doing a lot more videos this year than we have in the past. There's been a lot of things that have changed in my life as of late that are going to allow that to happen, and we'll be releasing a video in order to talk about that. Yeah, so cool. Everybody have fun, and we'll talk about all kinds of stuff later. Have a good day.